Hi, it's Jason. Today I'm going to read from Floki's Army, chapter 17. But everything was going so well. Things were going so well. It had only been a few months and Floki's transformation was incredible. He looked so much better. He was stronger and seemed to be very happy. Jason was sure that with the right care, they could give this boy a good life. He had no pictures in mind because they had never done anything like this before. Floki was progressing faster and better than they had ever imagined. A very big part of it was due to Floki's spirit. He had never given up all those years, and he was not giving up now. The fact that Floki was not spending the rest of his life hiding behind the couch was amazing in itself. Not only did he allow himself to embrace his new family, he also never stopped trying to get stronger. One day Floki started to cough. It didn't seem like much, but Paul and Jason knew that Floki's immune system may not be strong enough to fight off germs or viruses like other dogs. Hannah could come across the same germs and not be affected. They decided to go to the vet to have him looked at. He had made it this far. They weren't going to take any chances or be overconfident. The vet didn't really have an answer. They ruled out kennel cough or something similar because the cough was dry and didn't produce any phlegm. That they determined by Jason and Paula's description because once they arrived at the vet, Floki never coughed. They theorized that his cough was from a collapsed trachea. They said it was common in older, smaller breeds. They did an x-ray and looked at his heart and lungs, but concluded that everything looked pretty good. So with no real conclusion, they sent the Purcells home with cough syrup for the cough he supposedly didn't have, and hydrocodone for his theoretical collapsing trachea. Both Jason and Paula knew what hydrocodone was and decided not to use it. It was a painkiller that likely would cause Floki to sleep away what remained of his life. They did try some of the cough medicine, but it seemed to make Floki ill and gave him diarrhea. His cough started getting worse little by little. Jason and Paula decided to make an appointment with another vet they had heard good things about. She was classically trained, but preferred to take a more natural, alternative approach to treating dogs. She also ruled out any type of flu or kennel cough. She too believed that it was his trachea. She then gave them some herbal medications and suggested they come back in 3 weeks. Jason and Paula felt better about this approach because they had some personal success with herbal remedies in the past, and they took a more alternative approach to their own health care. They knew that they were not likely to have the negative side effects that come with pharmaceuticals. After 3 weeks, they returned to the vet to report that he had not gotten any better, and they believed actually a little bit worse. She decided to try some other herbal remedies and said, "Okay, let's try this." On the way home, Paula and Jason discussed the new plan and their thoughts about it. Since Floki had never showed any signs of being sick, they didn't believe that the vets understood how bad his cough really was and that it was getting worse. There didn't seem to be any sense of urgency with the vet. They didn't really think that they could take another 3 weeks to try these new herbs. When he coughed now, it was very loud and it threw his whole body. It happened mostly at night or when he had been sleeping for a while. It got to the point where it wasn't possible to sleep. Not for Jason, Paula, Hannah, or Floki. It wasn't just the sound of his cough, but when Floki would cough, it would scare him. He would get scared and he would run. When he ran, he would run into things. It was awful. He couldn't sleep in a bed with them because if he coughed, he might run off the side of the bed. They then took turns sleeping in the front room with them so they could keep a hand on him. The couch was much closer to the floor than their bed. Not only was everyone tired, but Floki needed to sleep during the day when he could because the cough was wearing him down. He no longer came to greet them at the door. He would raise his head and say hello, but that was about it. Once again, Paula came up with a great idea. "Why don't you call your herbalist?" she said to Jason. Years before, Jason's heart was shutting off. It caused him to drop to the floor unconscious. The doctors told him it was a condition called neurocardiogenic syncope. The brain was telling the heart to shut off. The doctors saw more and more of it, but did not know what caused it or how to cure it. They duplicated the event using a tilt table test in order to confirm the diagnosis. Jason's heart stopped longer than any patient his cardiologist had seen. The cardiologist prescribed a pill that would raise Jason's blood pressure and theoretically keep his heart beating. He told Jason to let people know that if he passed out, to make sure that he was lying flat, because that would give his heart a better chance of restarting. To make a long story short, the doctor's remedy was not good enough, so they sought another solution. This is when they met the herbalist who cured Jason. Jason had not seen his herbalist for a couple of years, but they had a good relationship and had even had lunch together a couple times. He was pretty sure that if he could help Floki, he would. Jason needed to have the herbalist look him over anyway, so he made an appointment for himself and asked the doctor to call him. When the doctor called, he recommended that Jason write down everything he could about Floki and bring the notes with him. He could not examine a dog in his office. Jason did so, and while he had his visit, the herbalist gave him something for Floki as well as for himself. It wasn't easy getting Floki to eat the herbal pills, but once they learned how to hide it in his food, both Paula and Jason were able to get Floki to take his medications. After the first week, Floki's cough was getting better. In another week, everyone was getting some sleep again. Sometimes even a couple of hours at a time. Yay! In 4 weeks, it was tolerable for both Floki and the rest of the family. Floki would cough a little when he got up, but it didn't last long, and it didn't have near the intensity that it had before. They wished that he didn't have a cough at all, but this was much better than before, and it would have to do. About 2 months went by, where his cough was no longer headline news. It was there, but nothing worrisome. Then it started up again. It seemed like it went from pretty good to pretty bad instantly. There was no build-up. Of course, they ordered more pills from the herbalist, but this time they didn't seem to be working. Paula worked much longer hours than Jason, therefore her sleep was more important. They agreed that on bad nights, Jason would sleep with Floki in his office in the basement. Jason put a mattress on the floor so he could sleep with one hand on Floki, or be close enough to reach him. When the coughing started, he would try to calm him and keep him from running into the wall or the furniture. His cough had become so bad they were afraid for Floki's heart wouldn't be able to withstand it. He would cough louder and harder than they ever could have imagined. At night time, it may go for several minutes straight, with very short periods of rest in between. It felt like Jason was getting 200 minutes of sleep in 3-minute intervals. Then the cough would back off a little bit. By comparison, anything less seemed wonderful to them. If anyone else would have seen him cough at this improved level, they would have been terrified. It was so difficult to see their boy go through this. Damn those puppy mills. What was causing it? The vets ruled out kennel cough, and the trachea thing didn't make sense because the cough would seem to come and go. You would think if his trachea was collapsed, it would never vary. One day at work, Jason checked his messages before his clients started coming in. There was a voicemail from Paula asking him to come home right away. Floki had been coughing nonstop for 3 hours. She was frightened for his life. Jason contacted his clients and canceled all his sessions for the day. He then quickly got in his car and made the 40-minute drive home. When he arrived at home, Floki was still coughing. Paula had called their 2 vets and was not able to get in to see either one of them. Unfortunately, you could never get past the front desk staff. It seemed just a cough was not an emergency to them. She had Floki and Hannah ready to go, and they all piled into Jason's car and sped off to the emergency vet. They didn't really have a relationship with them, and the emergency vet didn't have any of Floki's records. But what choice did they have? As soon as they arrived at the vet, Floki stopped coughing. Of course, they were relieved to see him stop struggling so badly, but they were hoping that the vet might see the severity of it. Not a chance. The little warrior remained tight-lipped and showed no signs of discomfort. Jason admired that about him, but right now was more concerned about getting him healthy. The emergency vet concluded that he had a problem with his trachea and sent them home with cough medicine and hydrocodone. Wonderful. Somehow it seemed that the trip to the vet made Floki a little bit better. What was causing it? What was making it better? Was it allergies? That didn't add up because he coughed in the winter too. What about the dry heat from the radiators? Same thing. That didn't account for summer. It was truly a mystery for them. One day out of the blue, Paula said, "Maybe we should take him to that chiropractor that our vet once had suggested for older dogs. All his coughing had been hard on his body, and maybe an adjustment would make him feel a little more comfortable." The chiropractor's name was Dr. Sig Hansen. He was originally trained as a doctor of chiropractic and had a PhD. He later went on and became a certified animal chiropractor, specializing in dogs and cats. What Jason discovered is that a lot of the vets will advertise chiropractic services, but are only required to take an 8-week course in order to do spinal adjustments. That was not good enough for their boy. Dr. Hansen was a pleasant guy who clearly loved what he did. Shortly after examining Floki, he started with the adjustments and asked Jason if Floki coughed a lot. Jason couldn't believe the question. Yes, he coughs a lot. Sometimes it's so bad that we're afraid that we're going to lose him. In fact, he's been coughing more lately. He just won't ever cough in front of a doctor. "How did you know he was coughing?" asked Jason. "Well, I can tell by the condition of his spine and the position it is in. He has virtually no cartilage around his lower vertebrae, and he has a big curve in his back. These are most likely due to him being confined in a cage all those years. The big curve in his spine tilts his rib cage at such an angle that it puts pressure on his trachea. It causes him to cough and gag at the same time." "Yes, that's exactly what it seems like," added Jason. "Are you able to help him with his cough?" "Yes, I think you will notice a difference from this adjustment. Call me in a few days and let me know how he is doing. From there we will make a plan for his care." "Thank you, Doctor." As it turned out, Dr. Hansen was right. Floki's cough was almost completely gone immediately. So nice to see their boy doing well. He slept quite a bit for the next couple of days, but was pretty much back to normal. They scheduled 4 more appointments, each 3 weeks apart. Dr. Hansen was hoping that Floki's body would take to the adjustments and eventually get stronger in order to keep it from getting out of position. Floki had ups and downs, but as long as they had Dr. Hansen, they could make an appointment and get some relief for Floki. None of the other adjustments made as a significant difference as the first one, but each time they could see an improvement, even if it was just back to the new norm. End of chapter 17. Thank you.